Hi guys, my name is Bethany Atazadeh and I'm here today to help you write the best possible back blurb or synopsis for your story. I want to give you some tips and tricks that'll help catch an agent's attention, or if you're self-publishing, will help your book fly off the shelves. So we're going to talk about what exactly is a book blurb and how long should it be, what should I include in it, and maybe some things that you shouldn't. So in case you didn't know, a back blurb is actually this chunk on the back of a book that tells you what the story is all about. A lot of people call that a synopsis, but if you're an author, you probably know that a synopsis is actually the full story synopsis, while a back blurb is just a teaser or a hook. It's something that catches people's attention and it makes the agent or reader want to buy that book. Writing a killer blurb is crucial. Whether you traditionally publish or self-publish, you're going to need it, because if you are traditionally publishing, you're going to need to send that to an agent, and that's what's going to make them choose you. And if you're self-publishing, then this is what's going to make your book sell. Picture your typical reader. They're going to walk into that bookstore or mouse on over to Amazon, and they're going to first look at your cover. And then what do they do next? They flip the book over. Or on Amazon, I guess they just read the description. This is almost always the deciding factor on whether or not an agent chooses your book or a reader decides to buy it. So no pressure, right? I'm not trying to freak you out. It's not impossible, but it actually should be hard. Like if you're having a hard time with it, that's okay. That's a good thing. That means you're doing it right. I just wanted to emphasize how important it is before we even start, because I know that a lot of us, myself included, can be tempted to settle with the first blurb that we write, and that's not a good idea. My biggest tip for a blurb above all else is to revise the crap out of it. When I went to write the blurb for Evelyn's Number, I wrote dozens of versions. Some had major changes and some had minor changes. I like to think of a good blurb as having 3 parts, and if you take a look at some of your favorite books, you'll notice that a lot of them include these things. Step 1, introduce your character / establish the world. Step 2 is to introduce the initial conflict, not the whole conflict, just the conflict that kicks things off. Step 3 is to introduce why the reader should care. Why should they be invested? It's something that typically is relatable and will get the story moving. Because of my songwriting background, I like to call this part of the blurb a hook. Something that hooks them like a fish and drags them in and they can't help but buy your book. Now let's break it down into details. My favorite. Typically a back blurb, at least for fiction, should be about 100 to 150 words. So us writers are super wordy people. This is going to be hard, but this is a rule for a reason. You want it to be punchy, fast, quick. If you need like 1,000 words to do that, I hate to say it, but they probably won't stick around that long. You need to be able to catch their attention right away. Let's talk about some things you should and should not include, your do's and don'ts. Do include your main character like right away. A lot of us will ramble on about the world or even the conflict, but unfortunately, nobody cares until they know who the story is about. So find a way to make the blurb character-centric. I just made that up. I don't think that's a word. But more than anything else about the character, we need to know why we should care about them. If it's an adult novel, there's no need to mention their age, but if it is a young adult novel, then it's very important to work their age into the blurb somehow, again, because it's relatable. On the other hand, you don't have to reveal all of your characters, not even all your main characters. In Evelyn's Number, I actually have 2 main characters, Evelyn and Jeremiah, but I don't mention Jeremiah once. With only 100 to 150 words, I'd recommend not including all your main characters. Do use vivid imagery and specifics. Do reveal a hook of what's going to happen, but don't reveal too much either. Does that sound like a fine line? That's because it is. Let me give you an example from Evelyn's Number. Even as the needle breaks her skin, she is blissfully happy. It's giving you a very specific image of a tattoo needle breaking her skin. That's picturable, but does it actually tell you what the tattoo is? No. Do use present tense. This is something I had no idea was important, but if you pick up your favorite books and read their blurbs, you're going to notice that almost all of them, if not all of them, are in present tense. This one is hard, at least for me, and I actually needed beta readers to point out to me when I accidentally slipped back into the typical tense that I write in. because present tense is kind of hard, but it reads very differently. It catches their attention much quicker and it feels more intense. The action is happening right in the moment, and it definitely catches a reader's attention or an agent's attention a lot quicker. Do use exciting verbs, seriously. Like when you're writing your first draft of your blurb, don't worry about it, but when you come back to edit it, challenge every word. When I'm writing my novels, I love adverbs. I let a few adverbs slip in because I think they're cute and fuzzy and I just like them. But when you're writing a blurb, no, it's got to be as tight as possible. Like as much as you possibly can, use killer verbs and make them really strong. It's going to give it such a serious punch and it's going to be amazing. Do use as much action as you can. It's really easy to be telly when you talk about your stories. Like this happened and then this happened and then this happened. But try to get the action and momentum going. And speaking of being telly, don't use too much world building. I know you've put a lot of time into your world, especially if you're a science fiction or fantasy writer, but no matter what genre you're in, you've created a beautiful world. And I know how you feel. You just want to share it. You want people to know what it's like there, what makes it unique and special. And unique is good and special is good, and you can include a little bit. But as you all know, when it comes to world building, it is so easy to info dump. And that is the last thing you want to do in a blurb. When you're in your chapters, you can kind of disperse that with some dialogue and the characters' actions. But when it comes to a blurb, there's almost no way to do world building without it coming across like an info dump. So as sad as it is, you need to pick and choose what is the most important for the reader to know. Not what's most important to you, although that's fun, but what's most important for the reader to know for this blurb to work, and then get rid of everything else. I know it's sad, but I promise they're gonna pick up your book then, and then they'll get to learn about it later when they read the story. Do feel free to use questions if they work for your blurb, and we'll talk more about that later, and I'll give you an example. They're a good way to get the reader thinking, but they're not necessary, just an option. Also, do consider writing a call to action of sorts at the end. You can look at some of your favorite books to see which ones do this. You could do a really forward one, like buy this book, or you could do a softer one that's maybe more like fans of such and such books will like this genre book. Whatever the call to action is, the idea is to get the readers thinking along the lines of, I think this book might have been written for me. And if it isn't obvious already, do read other blurbs in your genre. Pull every single book off your bookshelf and dissect those things, because they're going to give you an idea of the different directions you could go, some ways that you can break the rules, and you can mix and match the different styles and figure out what works for you. Of course, that said, I would also say don't copy anyone else's story too closely. A lot of stories have similar themes, so your blurb needs to showcase what makes your story unique, what makes it stand out versus what makes it blend in. Do write it in a way that you would describe it to a friend when you are first drafting it, but don't use that version once you have the bones of the blurb, so to speak. Make it much more dramatic than you would say in everyday conversation. Like, we're talking almost cheesy. If you picture one of your favorite authors reading the back of their blurb to you in everyday conversation, it would sound cheesy and dramatic, because that's what a good book blurb is. It's really dramatic. So this is your goal. Bring out the cheese to a certain extent. As with everything in life, you can go too far, so try to find that perfect balance. And that leads me to my next tip, which is do run your blurb by everyone. Not just family and friends, but strangers too. You can actually find a lot of strangers who would be willing to help you out and beta read your blurb on the internet. You could use your social media. You could ask any writer friends that you know on there. And I would also suggest using Goodreads. Has some great little forums for this particular topic. And then also Facebook has some specific beta reader groups where people are happy to help, and that's what they're there for. Always remember with the blurb to use the rule of 3, just like you would with your manuscript, which is that if 3 or more people say the same thing, you need to address that. But if it's just 1 or 2 people, it's just their opinion. You don't have to make that change. Also, do value feedback from people who read your genre more than the feedback that you get from other people. Do read it out loud. That should help you catch a lot of awkward parts. A big don't is don't worry about any of these rules when you're first drafting your blurb. It's getting really hard to say blurb. I've said it so much. Don't worry about fancifying it. Don't worry about the verbs. Don't worry about the tense. Don't worry about the action, any of that. Just think of these first drafts of your blurb as getting out all the raw material that you have to work with. Just get out all the words. Don't worry about structuring it perfect till you have the material to work with. There's that one quote that says a first draft is just filling the sandbox and you make the castle later. Same thing with the blurb. Just fill it up, get more than you need, just so you have a sandbox full of possibilities. Don't delete anything. You might end up wanting to use that random phrase later on, but you can't remember exactly how you said it. So just keep everything. It's not that many words. But obviously do rewrite. We talked about this earlier. You guys know. Just feel like I need to say it again because I am so thankful I didn't go with one of my first drafts. I thought they were awesome. They were not. Never settle for your first blurb. Give yourself the time and the freedom to keep writing it, keep running it by people until the people start saying, wow, I want to read that. Now, don't draft forever. The way that you know your blurb is done or very close to done is when you're putting it in front of new people, strangers, not people who will say anything to make you happy, but strangers who don't really care, and they're saying back to you, I would actually read that. Like, I want to read that book. When complete strangers are getting excited to read your book, that's when you know that your blurb is ready. Okay, this is the fun part. I get to give you guys some examples. So I picked 3 books. I'm going to read you their blurb and give you a really good example. So this is Graceling by Kristen Cashort, one of my favorite books. Katza has been able to kill a man with her bare hands since she was 8. Okay, that's the character. Just like that, we know who the character is. She's a Graceling, one of the rare people in her land born with an extreme skill. As niece of the king, she should be able to live a life of privilege, but graced as she is with killing, she is forced to work as the king's thug. That already introduces your conflict. You know that she doesn't want to work for the king and she doesn't want to kill. When she first meets Prince Po, graced with combat skills, Katza has no hint of how her life is about to change. She never expects to become Po's friend. She never expects to learn a new truth about her own grace or about a terrible secret that lies hidden far away. That's a hook, guys. That's a really good hook. And it's a really good book, and that rhymed. Okay, the next one is Cinder by Marissa Meyer, and she is an amazing author, and I think she writes on her blog that the back blurb is actually really, really similar to what she sent to her agent, if not exactly the same. That's how good it is. Here we go. Humans and androids crowd the raucous, I don't know how to say that word. When you don't know how to say a word out loud, but you know what it means, that's when you're a reader. Anyway, the streets of New Beijing. A deadly plague ravages the population. From space, a ruthless lunar people watch, waiting to make their move. No one knows that Earth's fate hinges on one girl. 16-year-old Cinder, a gifted mechanic, is a cyborg. She's a second-class citizen with a mysterious past and is reviled by her stepmother. So, character. Right away, 16-year-old cyborg? Ooh, I want to know more, especially with that cool. Anyway. But when her life becomes intertwined with the handsome Prince Kai's, she suddenly finds herself at the center of an intergalactic struggle and a forbidden attraction. Caught between duty and freedom, loyalty and betrayal, she must uncover secrets about her past in order to protect her world's future. Because there is something unusual about Cinder, something that others would kill for. It doesn't give away the story at all, but it definitely hooks your attention and you know what the conflict is and you know who the character is. Okay. Now, the third book, it's weird. Who wrote this? I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. All right, you guys ready for this? Everyone in Eden is assigned a number tattooed on their neck, which determines their value and place in the world. On her numbering day, Evelyn Vandreth anticipates joining the elite. Born in an upper-class family, she knows exactly who she is and what she is worth. Okay, I gotta pause there. So you're getting a sense of who the character is and also what the world is like. Now for the conflict. Even as the needle breaks her skin, she is blissfully happy. She never considers another outcome until it's too late. So we talked about the tattoo, so you know that she's getting a tattoo and the conflict is something dang happened that wasn't supposed to happen. I don't want to spoil it. Okay. Now 18-year-old Evelyn lives in fear, struggling with her new identity, stripped of her freedom and basic human rights. Can she escape her number? Is anyone else asking the same question? So there's your conflict and the hook. Can she escape her number? That's a big question. A lot of us want to know, can we get out of the boxes we've been put in? It's relatable. And then, is anyone else asking the same question? That brings the reader to a ton of possibilities. What is going to go down? Are there other people who don't like their number who might want to be doing something about it? I have to stop talking or I'm going to spoil things. And then the last paragraph, fans of The Hunger Games and Divergent will love Evelyn's number and its incredible dystopian tale. So that is what I used for my call to action, because I didn't want it to be pushy. I didn't want to say, you gotta buy the book, guys. But I also did want people to know, if you like dystopian, this is the right kind of book for you. So write and rewrite your blurb until it encompasses all those things that we talked about. It's going to feel like a lot of work, like a crap load of work, but it's not impossible. You can do it. It's okay if it feels like it's overwhelming. I want to encourage you that actually means you're doing it right. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other helpful tips for a blurb that I didn't include, but also let me know what your favorite book blurb is, because I love inspiration and I'm currently trying to write the blurb for Pearl's number and, struggling because it's a struggle. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. That'll really help me out, guys. Thank you. I post new videos every Thursday, so you can ring that bell below if you want to get a notification when the next video comes up. My novel, Evelyn's Number, is available on Amazon, and I have signed copies on my website. Plus, you can read the first 2 chapters for free on my website. All the links are below. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!